What's up, everybody? This is Tony Mosey, and today I want to talk about my journey into a carnivore diet. So I want to talk about a series of things that, of course, initially inspired me, what got me through it, and then, my thoughts about my overall feelings about it. What inspired me was, basically, I was about 225 pounds, morbidly obese. My diet was pizza, beer, and Twix bars, all right? Maybe I may have deviated, or I may have gone off the beaten path by, eating takeout food, but that was like my staple. And I ballooned up to 225 pounds and not doing anything, really not moving around, not, going to not exercising, nothing. So how it worked was, during the pandemic, 2020, right? I had gotten laid off from a job, and at that time I remember, just to conserve money, because I didn't have much money, but I had enough just to live at least for the next couple months while applying to jobs. And so, as a military veteran, you get your perks, of course. One of which, especially during the pandemic, was they were giving out free boxes of food, boxed, food that had everything from canned food to, meat, ground beef, pork, chicken, canned peaches. I mean, they had everything: rice, macaroni, noodles, spaghetti. And I said, you know what? Let me do this. Let me get it, right? And I was eating it, and it got to a point where, I was eating that as well as eating supermarket grade food, right? I was eating supermarket eggs, supermarket grade level eggs. And two things: from the meat that I got from the package, or at least from the box, from the veterans box that they were giving us, I was not feeling well with my stomach, right? But also with the eggs, if I was just eating eggs, I would eat 6 eggs, and then I would get hungry about an hour or two later. And I'm asking myself, how am I getting hungry after eating all these eggs? Is it just me? Is it my metabolism? Whatever. So that was when, through that time during the pandemic, I had a chance to pretty much sit around and think about this. I was able to finally stop and see, like, okay, what am I putting in my body, right? So I decided to do a test. The test was, all right, let's get store-bought eggs, but also let's buy whatever these people are talking about, with organic eggs. Let's see what this is all about, right? So I would do a little test where I would do, one day I'll have 3 or 4 organic eggs. Then the next day I'll have 4 supermarket eggs. And then the next day I'll have organic eggs mixed with supermarket eggs. And every time I ate organic eggs, whether I mixed it in or I did it just alone, I was satiated for the next 4 hours. I did not need to eat. I wasn't hungry. I was like, wow, I feel good. The next indication of the eggs as well was the color, right? You look at the supermarket eggs, they're like yellow going into a white yolk color, while the organic eggs were a yellow going into an orange color. So seeing those two visual differences also had me thinking. The packages, if you look at some of the organic eggs, they put pamphlets in there. It looks a little cute with the pamphlets, and you're like, wow, look, it gives you a story about the chicken, how they were raised and where they're from and what kind of lifestyle they have. Some of them actually give these chickens names. These hens have names and a lifestyle, almost like they went to Club Med, they studied, they have their doctorate in sociology. They then decide to change a career and go into medicine, where they helped out pediatrics and geriatrics. It's so interesting. So that was another thing too. It's like I felt like these organic eggs put a lot more pride into their eggs, whether it was the packaging all the way down to the eggs. You had to see also what they were being fed, what were the contents in each of the eggs, the yolks and everything like that. You were dealing with some really good stuff. I was then going down the rabbit hole. I was still eating the boxed food. I was like, man, I don't know if I like this. I like the eggs. It's satiating me. I don't feel like crap. I went down the rabbit hole. I was looking at, pages by Thomas DeLauer, Dr. Berg, Dr. Nick Zyrowski, and others. And I was looking at the reviews on organic meats, and I stumbled on a YouTube on, Sean Baker, which I would say he's like the grandfather, the godfather, the icon of carnivore. I have a little momentum in myself when it comes to dieting. I have done crash diets before. I've done fad diets. I've done diets where everyone says, oh, you should do this. This is what works. I've done these diets. And granted, they did help in the moment. They did help at that time. They did help me, lose weight so I could look good, like, oh man, look at me. I freaking ballooned up. Let me lose some weight in like a week or two. And I would lose the weight. Literally, like I did the 10-day master cleanse, right? Where you do the lemon, the cayenne, the maple syrup, in the water, and then every morning you chug down sea salt. I did that. I lost weight. I would go from 215, 220, all the way down to 180, and I did that in 10 days, and that was cool. I did a couple other diets. I've done vegan diets. I've done, Weight Watchers as well. And I'll tell you, those made me gain the weight back quicker. And I kept the weight on longer. So I was looking at all the YouTubes by all these wonderful people, and I said, let me try this. I mean, look, you're a guy who's done his own trials and tribulations, with these diets. What could hurt with you doing this carnivore diet? People are talking about their personal anecdotes of, oh my God, it's making me feel more clear-headed. I lost weight and I kept it off. And all these stories that people are saying, I'm just like, you know what? Let me try this, right? So I went ahead and I went predominantly a carnivore diet. Predominantly. So that means my diet was, of course, steak, ground beef, pork, eggs, goat milk. But then I was also doing almond butter and olive oil and kombucha. Okay. I do goat products, and perhaps I'll do another video on this. I cannot do cow dairy. I cannot do the cow ice cream. People are saying, oh, maybe you should do the raw milk. I have to go find that based on the state. Not everyone has a raw milk farm, right? I can do goat milk. It started off when I was doing goat protein powder, and I'm like, yo, I feel freaking great, right? Then I decided to get into goat milk. Then I started getting into goat cheese spread, almost like a Philadelphia cream cheese, but it was just all goat. I was like, this is not bothering me. Let me continue. So in 2020, I was off and on. I noticed I felt great, but due to the environment, like, work and social, my social life, I mean, this was kind of like put upon me. I said, hey, look at this diet. Let's do it, But my environment did not change. The people who I hung out with did not change, cold turkey like that, So I still was still influenced by the people, places, and things that I was around. So I had either days, on or weeks on end where, I would eat, I would drink water, I'll drink whatever, including alcohol. But what I did notice that every time I came back on it, I started to see that this was a good baseline, a good elimination diet to start from, eliminating all the things that you ate and starting off from just the most basic fundamental of foods. And then every so often start reintroducing certain foods to see what you are allergic to. So there's many ways to obviously test if you are allergic to something. The first one would be go to a doctor, go to an allergist, and do that whole press that thing in your forearm test, right? That's how I got to know about certain allergens that I have as well. But I also believe too, the best way is that you know it, like because you have applied it, you have gone and take the action yourself and go, oh, this doesn't work for me, right? And granted, yes, you can eat certain foods. I don't know if that that allergy tests for, say you're allergic to grapes. Maybe you're not allergic to organic grapes, but maybe you're allergic to GMO, genetically modified grapes. Maybe you're allergic to the pesticides. You don't even know. So it takes you understanding if you have a local supermarket that's nearby or a place that you typically go, and you go, every time I eat this, this is how I feel. So it's a great way to really establish, start with a foundation, start with the bare minimum, the bare necessities, which I would say could be carnivore, but this video is about it. So of course I want to talk to you about, I don't want to philosophize more than what we are talking about here, because carnivore diet has been great, but let me continue on. I have been doing this carnivore diet for 3 years. It's been off and on, whether I went strict, whether I went predominant, where I went like omnivore, where it's like kind of like 50, 40, 30, 20 carnivore. And I've known differences between all of them, right? At this moment of recording, I have been reintroducing myself to fruit, potatoes. I also do a little bit of flour, making some pizza dough. So I must admit, again, I have been going off and on of it, whether strictly or not. But I can say that every time I go carnivore, right, I always feel great. And whenever I reintroduce something, it just makes me smarter as to what I should be eating. There's a reason. I also believe there's a DNA for what you eat. That's what I believe, right? But let me keep saying. So, I am about 6 feet. I'm teetering depending on how up straight up I am. 5'11", 6 feet, whatever you want to put it, right? And I currently weigh about 195 pounds. That fluctuates, of course, right? If I go not so carnivore to full carnivore, if I'm exercises, if I'm sleeping, all that stuff, all these other things. But just in regards to just the carnivore, I do notice there's a difference. And the one thing, right? Like when I was in the master cleanse, it took everything away. I think it even took the muscle away. Because I would get really slim, right? And I would work out, but I wouldn't be doing the workouts that I do now. Like I'm lifting weights, I walk every day. I do 10,000 steps minimum. I get sun. The one thing that definitely stayed, even though now I'm 195, is my muscle mass. And it only keeps increasing. It goes up by 1 point or whatever. I'm using an app called Renfo, which of course I know there's other apparatuses out there, machines, monitoring equipment out there, software, whatever, that could allow you to see like what are you dealing with and what do you measure out to be and whatever. But it's connected to a scale where it takes your water weight, your bone density, your visceral fat, how much you would weigh had you been fat free, BMI, all these other wonderful correlates, right? And my muscle mass keeps increasing thanks to carnivore every time. It's when I get off of it, the muscle mass decreases like certain point decimals of an increment. When I eat carnivore, it increases decimal increments. I start noticing how my energy is, how my skin looks, how my body looks on the mirror, my torso. When I'm on more carnivore, I'm more ripped. I get more muscle mass. When I'm on carnivore, like I said, 100% to about 75% carnivore, my skin looks better. You know what I'm saying? So like these little things, my stomach, nothing's wrong with my stomach. I don't feel issues. If I'm eating carnivore, I just feel good. I feel satiated. I feel good. While on the carnivore diet, right? If I'm doing strictly, right? I notice that I don't need to eat much. I'll have 2 meals. 3 meals is pushing it. I feel like I'm filling myself. But 2 meals of just carnivore, which would be a ribeye steak with perhaps 2 or 3 eggs on it, would be a meal. 2 meals tops. Sometimes I'll go 1 meal a day, and I'm good. I do know that it all comes down to the type of proteins you're gonna eat, right? Types of what is the carnivore ratio? For me, this is how it works. For me, I can't just live off of protein. I need some fat. The saturated fat in a ribeye helps keep me satiated. Is protein one thing? Because I remember when I was just eating like just chicken, like chicken breast, I was ravenous. So having a mixture, this is another reason too why I couldn't always go full carnivore until I figured it out, that I just needed a fat ratio. Because I would have, chicken, I'd have a specific steak, but then I would also have to eat almond butter on the side. I would always also have to find a way to get my fat, and having fat with the protein helped keep me satiated. So ribeye was definitely one of them. There's other ones out there, of course, but ribeye has been the one that's been super easy for me to just eat and not have to care about, oh my God, did I get my fats anywhere and blah, blah, blah. That with butter and tallow, having them cooked in tallow and, which is like beef fat or, just the goat butter that I use help keep me satiated. And during these times, people were, concerned. I was also concerned too, because there were times where I would get cramps. And so I would have to use the Element Electrolytes. Element Electrolytes has kept me going, especially when I fast. Because even when I fast, whether I was doing full carnivore or not, I noticed that the electrolytes was what got me through my days. Because I would go to the gym. I'd run. I'd lift. I would do intermittent fast, prolonged fast of about 72 hours, average about 48 hours if I'm doing a prolonged fast. But the most part, I'm doing a 16 to 18 hour, intermittent fast. And what got me through it was the electrolytes. So doing Element worked. That, or you can make your makeshift one of salt, magnesium, and cream of tartar as your potassium. So you need the trifecta for your electrolytes, right? You need magnesium, potassium, and sodium. So I would use Redmond's real salt, right? I'd use a nice, that'd probably be the biggest of the whole ratio. Then I'd take my capsules of magnesium, L-threonate, magnesium. I think there's a trifecta that I got that has like glycinate and a couple other ones in there, taurate, good for the body. And then cream of tartar as the potassium. So you can do that at home. Buy a thing of cream of tartar, which is what they put in cakes. Has no calories. It's full of potassium. And that can be your electrolytes without having to buy Element. But if you want to, and you want something quick and easy, and use it in a packet that you could carry around with you instead of having to go like this, then guess what? I'll leave you with the link in the description to check out Element Energy Drink. It's really good. There's no sugar. You don't have to worry about that. It's just the 3 things that you need, because I do the one that's raw. If you want a little sugar in it, they also have sugar versions as well. But check that out. So here's some other little things that was going on in carnivore that I did. Things to maybe consider, things that I had considered. I did do a little bit of liver. I would buy the liver from Whole Foods, which Whole Foods has, apparently they're half grass, half grain fed, if not all grain fed, some of them. Thanks for them at the deli telling me this. So I was eating partially grain fed liver. I don't know what I really felt from it. I don't. Other than they say, just eat it. I ate it. I don't know. I think I felt a little bit better. And also, I was still taking supplements, and I still take supplements to this day. And I can share all the supplements that I have as well. I'm taking, obviously, the magnesium that I said. I'm taking stuff for, I'm taking stuff for my T levels, right? So the Fedosia agrestis, let's see here. I'm also taking the omega-3, taking zinc. I'm taking this probiotic called Seed, which I did a video previously. You can check that out. Also, turmeric and curcumin. All right. So again, check any of those out that may tickle your fancy. They've been really, really good for me. They have really good reviews, and they've been pretty good. So yeah, for the overall feeling of carnivore, I'll tell you, man, It has been good, right? I'm still skeptical. I don't know how sustainable I would want it for myself. I don't know if I want to do the carnivore, just like a Sean Baker. I do believe in the idea that there's food for your DNA. I have that hypothesis, that theory. But I will nevertheless say that you should be eating meat. You should, provided it's sourced from a proper farm, right? And it's grass-fed, grass-finished. I believe in the whole idea that you fed that cattle from when it was, in the mom's womb all the way till it got, till slaughter. I believe that you should have a little meat in your diet. Personally, I feel like you should have a lot of meat in your diet. At least one steak a day. Definitely eggs. People shouldn't be shying on eggs. I try to eat about 5 to 6 eggs per meal. I'm not gonna say I eat eggs every meal because sometimes it gets a little boring. And I'll tell you about this carnivore thing. Like, I've been seeing some of the Instagrams that are out there, right? And some of the TikToks and all that stuff like that, and people are sharing like, oh, look, I made a carnivore pizza where the crust is meat-based. It's made of cheese and eggs and stuff like that. And I want that because I'm kind of getting bored. That's the one thing I can say is I'm getting a little bored of just eating. Steaks is one thing, but it's the next thing, like if I deviate and I don't have any steaks, because I think I could do steaks a lot. But if I start doing like ground beef and eggs and chicken, I'm just like, oh my God, I want to do something else. I do some cheese, I do some milk, but get a little bored. So I see what they're doing, and I may want to start getting into that. But I can tell you that it can get boring at times. And I also rely on electrolytes. I think everybody needs electrolytes. Also, the goat milk is really good in potassium, so if I needed that, I would use that as well. But overall, again, I can say every time I have incorporated meat, eggs into my diet, I feel good. So I personally would recommend you try at least a little bit, because also when I was on a vegan diet, I was always hungry. And I do remember getting acne was easy. Third, I was buying the stuff that the rest of the herd was saying. Hey, buy these vegan jerky, these chips. And it's like, dude, I thought the point of being vegan is to eat like healthy stuff from the ground. But instead people are eating like, I'm making up stuff now, but there's a vegan thing now for everything. There's vegan muffins, vegan this, and it's all carbs and junk and all these fillers. And I was wasting money. So with being on carnivore, here's the benefits. I'm spending less money. I'm staying lean and ripped. I'm staying clear-headed. My stomach hasn't been giving me problems. My skin is clear whenever I'm on it. And I get closer and closer to knowing what is really meant for me, like beyond just the meat. Like, what kind of fruits can I not eat? What kind of starches? It's basically there. I do come to this idea that we're not put on this earth to eat certain foods. All right. There's just certain foods that you should not be eating. All right. Especially if it's man-made. We should already know that. Also, the reason why when you go strictly carnivore, when you just go carnivore and you go, I'm going to just do this, you're eating less sugar. You're eating less carbs. Thus, you lose the weight. So, that was my ramble. This is me on my Canon DSLR camera. I'm using a Blue Yeti Snowball for recording this. And, just getting my foot in, just talking about the stuff that has impacted me, I've experienced, and hoping that you got some benefit from this. Any questions, any comments, let me know how you felt off the carnivore diet, and talk to you soon. One love.